Console online. HPG connection online. Educational module online. All systems nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of BattleMechs podcast, episode 109, The Assassin. I am your host, Brent Stewart. My co-host today is...
I'm Chandler.
And today we are talking about The Assassin, a 40-ton machine that,
It's a thing. It exists.
This is a factually true statement, yes.
It isn't exactly impressive, except for the fact it goes real fast.
Mm-hmm.
That is about as impressive as the Assassin gets.
Yes. Well, with the lens of history, we see that many, mostly outside the Star League, who at the time criticized Maltech for political pork, backroom dealings, and many quote-unquote campaign contributions for getting the Assassin a SLDF contract. That being said, the machine ended up being respectable, if lacking in some areas. The Assassin has also been a machine plagued by issues. Soon after the unit started receiving their machines, reports of quality control issues mounted, resulting in 2 of the Assassin plants being investigated and found guilty of quality and control policy violations. The results of this were that the production of the Assassin slowed to a trickle, and as such the machine was shifted from militias and found a positive reception in the periphery. Maltrek has issued recalls and upgrade kits to remedy the issues of the original run, but it is still possible to find non-upgraded original runs of the Assassin. Another issue is that... Sorry, go ahead.
Good old Maltex not doing a good job with their freaking design.
Yeah.
This and the Sentinel both have SRM issues. I wonder if they are the same SRM.
Another issue is that when the machine is under intense heat, the SRM loading mechanism has an increased chance of jamming. While not dangerous as the missile is not armed, it does require a full disassembly in a maintenance bay in order to correct and clear. The cockpit has had several iterations in an attempt to make the cockpit more comfortable, as pilots often complain of its cramped nature and the heat in the confined space. That, paired along with hundreds of years of retired Assassin pilots reporting back issues, has kept pressure on Assassin R&D teams to find a solution, but none have yet to be found that satisfy all issues. The Assassin suffers from limited ammo, making its sustainability on the battlefield somewhat lackluster. This results in its generally being a support machine that keeps to supply lines. While an Assassin can make an excellent hunter-killer of scouts, it generally still must remain close to these supply lines in order to remain combat effective. So that means no long deployments. Due to limited replacement parts and slow production, the machine has never had great frontline deployment. Most of the originals still in operation are in fact family heirlooms. That was until Defiance Industries licensed the machine and started producing it. And then doubly so when Maltrex, not learning from their mistakes several hundred years ago, in the late 3060s, Maltrex was being investigated for illegal stock trading, tax evasion, and Blakist involvement. Given the situation, Maltrex happily signed a deal with Hellspawn Mechworks to produce assassins for the CCAF. While acting in good faith in the beginning when the investigation results were released, Hellspawn used a loophole in the contract to cut Maltrex out of the sales profits and has been selling assassins to the CCAF and MAF at cut rate deals. This helped save the Assassin from becoming a extinct machine.
Yeah, good on you, Maltex. Way to.
So the Assassin has the design quirks of easy to maintain, cramped cockpit, non-standard parts, and poor life support. So it's funny that it has the easy to maintain but also non-standard parts. It's like, do they just cancel each other out?
Theoretically, easy to maintain's more on the side of it's very easy to repair it, whereas non-standard parts just makes it hard to get parts.
Or
so
like
once you have the parts, yeah,
but just kind of like one of those min-max things on the back end for the game system. It's like, that's interesting. So our first model of the Assassin is the ASN-21, seen in 2676. The Assassin 21 has a movement profile of 7-11-7. It's got a LRM 5 and an SRM 2 and a medium laser. The LRM 5 is in the right torso, the SRM 2 is in the left torso, and the medium laser is in the right arm. It's got 10 single heat sinks. It's got a standard engine, no special tech. It's got 1 ton of ammo in the right torso for the LRMs and 1 ton of ammo in the left torso for the SRMs, neither of which is protected by case.
Yeah. The poor assassin. Like, this mech is just... It's a thing. It exists.
It can barely punch at its weight class, and that being exactly 40 tons and below.
I've seen anemic toddlers with more firepower.
Yeah, this is underwhelming, and hence the criticism.
Yeah. Like, if it was better armed, or maybe much better to the pilot, I could be like, yeah, it's a little undergunned, but it's really good for the pilots. Or, hey, it might the pilot, but it's got a lot of gun. But it just doesn't have either.
But it can go fast, and it is hard to hit because of that. If you're jumping 7, that's a good TMM.
Yeah. It's definitely got the speed to get it into places, but it doesn't have anything to do once it gets there. I mean, an SRM2 is nice.
It is nice, but like 1 ton of ammo, you can't even like swap it out for Inferno or anything.
And then even if you do swap it out for Infernos, it's an SRM2.
Yeah.
What are 2 Infernos going to do to someone?
Make them a little sweaty.
Yeah, if you're shooting on a mech. If you're shooting on a tank, you'll have a bit better of a time.
Mm-hmm. Or infantry, even better.
It just is a very underwhelming firepower design.
'Tis true.
I mean, it's got a nice heat curve, at least.
True. That it does have. Speed and a heat curve. That is nice. So it's got a battle value of 749 and a point value of 22. We then come to the ASN-SB, seen in 2989, and I couldn't find anything about this other than a master unit listing.
Yeah, the master unit list cites TRO Secession Wars, but I can't find anything in TRO Secession Wars that mentions it. I really don't know what's going on with this.
We are at a loss, is what we are saying.
It's one of those weird ones that's mentioned, and like the only place I could find a mention of it is on the master unit list.
Yes. So it could be a misfile, it could be a mislisting, it could be any number of things.
Yeah.
And the hive mind has yet to get back to us. So it is followed up by the Assassin 101. Seen in 3024, and this guy has a movement profile of 7-11-5. It's got a small laser in the head, an LRM 5 in the right torso, an SRM 2 in the left torso, a medium laser in the right arm, a small laser in the right leg, and a small laser in the left leg. It's got 10 single heat sinks, a standard engine, no weight savings, no case, 1 ton of ammo, same as before. Yeah, this guy strips some jump jets to put lasers in, and it is a weird sort of War Games retrofit sneak attack production thing in the history books.
Yeah, the 101's interesting. I kind of like it just from this is a different way to do this point of view, because they decided to strip out, 2 jump jets for small lasers, which is interesting.
I'm not sure why they didn't put the lasers in the torso.
Yeah, the leg placement's weird.
Yeah.
And it also did shave off some armor. It did shave off half a ton of armor for that third small laser. So it's even more paper armor.
'Tis true.
I mean, like, the side torsos have 9 armor.
AC-10 is going to give you a bad time.
Yeah, the head's only got 7. If you get headshot with anything that does 10 damage, this thing's dead.
Yes, flat.
You're just gone.
Yep.
At least the 21, like, it could take a 10-point hit to the head.
It passed the PPC test.
Yeah, which in this era, those are what you're going to probably get hit by the majority of the time, is longer ranged weapons, and the most damage you're going to see there is 10.
So this was seen in 3024, as I said, and it's got a battle value of 757 and a point value of 23, which is a little different, a little spicy. We then have the 23 seen in 3050, and this guy goes back to the traditional movement profile of the 21 of 711-7. It's got an LRM 5 with Artemis 4 in the right torso and a medium pulse laser in the right arm. It's got 10 single heat sinks, standard engine, 1 ton of ammo in the right torso, Artemis.
Yeah, they're figuring it out. They're trying new things at least. I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose there's worse things they could have done with it. They could have given it a bunch of like Artemis Ford SRM2s or something. Like there's worse things they could have done.
This is a good half step or a good first draft. Probably not a production, but that is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing about the 23 is you could easily refit it off of a 21.
My issue is I just wish they had balanced it so that something was in the left side.
Yeah, it suffers from the same problem the Griffin does, which is all of your weapons are on one side. So if something goes wrong, like that Artemis, that LRM5 ammo going up, you're just kind of weaponless.
Yeah. Well, in this case, you're also dead because there's no case.
It could potentially not do enough damage.
Potentially.
Depending how many shots you've taken.
Yes. So the 23 has a battle value of 740 and a point value of 26. We then come to the 30, and the 30 was seen in 3062. It's got a movement profile of 711-7. It's got an LB 5XAC in the right torso, an ER medium laser in the right arm. It's got a ton of ammo in the right torso, and it has a light engine. It's got 10 double heat sinks, so this is a very cool running boy. I don't think it's possible to overheat this.
No, you would have to take enough engine crits to kill you before this thing overheats.
And the other weight savings it has is endo steel.
Yeah. They get all this weight savings, and then all they do is pump it into an LB5X with 1 ton of ammo. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Like, if you could give this slug and cluster, you have effectively replaced the 2 missile systems with
one gun.
Yeah.
Which, I'd rather see the LB5 ripped out and put, like, maybe a couple of 6-pack SRMs.
I mean, that's spicy.
I do like that it increased the armor by a whole lot. You got an additional
now passes
32
the PPC
points.
test.
You've got another 32 points of armor, most of which is distributed across the torso and legs. Like, you got 15 points of leg armor, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot, actually.
It's more than it has on its center torso. So you are not being legged unless you're dead.
Hmm.
Which is fine. I mean, the light engine's very durable.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we saw like a 31, which has like a LAC 5 instead of the LB, because then you could put maybe some other guns on it as well.
Is a Rack 5 lighter?
LAC, light autocannon.
Oh, LAC. My bad. I misheard you. My apologies. Yeah, no, actually, yeah, light autocannon with 2 tons of ammo so you can get some specialty for, like, precision shots.
Yeah, and I mean, even without 2 tons of ammo, like, just being able to have the autocannon be, like, a longer ranged weapon and then have a bunch of lasers for, like, knife fighting would be nice.
Well, the 30 is interesting and unique, we'll call it.
Freaking Lyran's not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Because this is the Defiance one.
Yeah. So the battle value for this bad boy is 925, and the point value is 23.
It should be noted that this design was considered a failure.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. So next up we have the Assassin Servitor, and this is Inner Sphere Experimental during the Civil War. So this guy's got a movement profile of 711-7. It's got a small laser in the head, an SRM-2 in the right torso, an SRM-2 in the left torso, a medium X-pulse laser in the right arm, a small vibroblade in the left arm, and then a small X-pulse laser in the left leg, and small X pulse laser in the right leg. It's got 10 double heat sinks, an XL engine, no other weight savings, but this is interesting. It does have more armor than several of its brothers and sisters, so...
Yes, this is one of the variants with the most armor. It has 128 points out of 137 possible, so you're getting up to the maximum amount you can put on this pretty much, which is nice, because it needs it all.
Also, this screams Solaris to me.
So the servitor, I can't remember what this is actually from.
I believe it is, but I'm not, willing to put money on it.
3050 unabridged.
Also, small vibroblade. Woo! How often do you see that? That's some fun tech.
It definitely feels like they were like, yes, it is me, Ezio. Ezio de Aldatore. And it's just got it, underneath its, wrist. It's ska! Gotcha! Now we just need one with a retractable blade.
Yeah, which, there are rules for.
Yeah, it's totally possible. Come on, CGL. We got the new model coming out. Let's get us a cool assassin with a retractable blade and actual guns. This one has actual guns.
One can argue, and we're going to pivot on to talking about how it looks for a second. The body already has, the hood that, the assassin uniform has. Because, well, class, circle on the image that is on your data pad in front of you where you think the cockpit is. Half of you got it wrong.
I'm very glad that they've redesigned the art and very clearly have shown where the cockpit is. There's no mistaking where the cockpit is anywhere.
Yeah, that was an unnecessary issue of consternation in the community, we'll say.
Yeah, especially with the lackluster abilities of the assassin. It's an argument for argument's sake, not an argument because it's a really good mech that you should know about. It's an assassin.
Well, having some spicy tech definitely helps its battle value because the Servitor has a BV of 1,019 and a point value of 32. We then come to the ASN-30 Alice, and this is a interesting, spicy creation because it is a rebuild, and we will get to its history when we talk about the pilot, but it has got 2 ER medium lasers in the right arm, 1 ER medium laser in the right torso, a Guardian ECM in the right torso, an ER medium laser in the left torso, a Beagle active probe in the left torso, and a C3 slave in the head. And then it also has a targeting computer.
Mm-hmm.
That is in the center torso. And it's got 10 double heat sinks, which is good because, those ER
That's
medium lasers will heat you up, especially if you're jumping. But C3, 7 jump, ECM for disrupting other people's stuff. This is sweet. It's got Pharaoh, it's got Endo, it's got a light engine to help pay for everything.
Yeah.
Jump 7 targeting computer. You've made an assassin good by making it cheese.
Yeah. At least they're not pulse lasers, although pulse lasers would probably be better. If you ripped out the targeting computer in the C3 slave and somehow were able to fit 4 medium pulse lasers on this, it would be very good, not because you're hitting with a -2, although that helps a lot, but because then you're actually somewhat heat neutral. You're not going to overheat, moving and firing everything.
I actually like the C3 more because I think it works better it incentivizes this to be a part of a lance or part of a unit, and that makes it very spicy.
Yeah. I do kind of miss the SRMs just because they're a lot of damage in a relatively light package.
Yeah, if we could trade 1 ER medium laser for an SRM, I would be happy, but you need a ton for ammo.
Yeah, I would trade the 2 torso ones and the targeting computer for an SRM.
You mean the right arm ones?
No, I'd trade both the torso ones for them.
Oh, in the left and the right. I see what you're saying, yeah.
Get an SRM4 or something, hopefully, out of that between those 2 and the targeting computer.
I just figured if you took it out of the arms, you could go punchy.
Yeah, but you also want the arm one because it's easier to aim for the most part, and then you could also get it behind you.
So this interesting, spicy machine has a BV of 1507 and a point value of 39 and was seen in 3066. We then have our last unit, the ASN-99, seen in 3068. This unit's got a movement profile of 711-7. It's got a tag in the head. It's got an SRM-2 in the right torso, a Guardian ECM in the left torso, an SRM-2 in the left torso, a light PPC in the right arm, and a sword in the left arm. It's got 20 double heat sinks. It's got an XL engine, and it also has stealth armor.
It's so close yet so far. It's right there. It's so close. It had victory in its grasp, and then it gave it a light PPC. It's just so much tonnage for a mech this size to tie up into one gun that doesn't do a ton of damage, especially one with a sword.
Yeah, because it's 2 slots, 3 tons, right?
Yeah. The slot issue's a thing, but this doesn't use very many slots, so that's not
Yeah,
the
this
issue.
one has slots to spare.
It's the 3 tons into one gun that hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean,
I like the stealth armor. That's nice.
absolutely. At this weight bracket, it feels like you should upgrade to a large laser or an ER large laser and just, get that little bit of extra range and damage,
Yeah, just eat the 2
extra
tons.
ton. Yeah.
The large laser is 5 tons, 2 crits.
Yes.
But yeah, large laser would be a very good weapon for the assassin in general.
Mm-hmm.
Just the bog standard large laser. I don't think the ER large is actually a good weapon for it, because that's just a ton of heat. It has the sink. Just give it a large laser. 8 damage, 8 heat, decent range.
We've said it before, we'll say it again. The large laser is an underappreciated weapon.
And it's not a PPC.
Yeah, like it. It's got a good damage profile. It is not long range, but it is
Longer range.
like medium to long range.
Yeah, it's a solid medium range weapon, and it can kind of reach out if it needs to.
Mm-hmm. And do you really care about missing a Hail Mary shot with an energy weapon?
Yeah.
At long range, you're not
really.
wasting ammo. As long as you can sink it, you're fine.
And I mean, going to the large laser, it's not like you lose any range off the light PPC.
Mm-hmm. I think you gain 3, if I'm remembering, or is that the ER?
The ER is longer. So the large laser and the ERPP, or not ERPPC, light PPC, I believe, have the same range.
Okay, I must be thinking of the ER then, because I thought it was 21 and 24, but maybe that's clan.
So the light PPC actually has more range. It goes up to 18. So you're losing a little bit of range.
What does the large laser go up to?
15.
Oh, huh. So many numbers in this game.
So you could do 2 ER mediums for the same range bracket and similar damage output for less tonnage and a somewhat comparable amount of heat.
But this is a very long digression to talk about a machine when we're not talking about the fact that it has a sword.
Yeah, and it has a sword and they gave it something at the minimum range as its primary weapon. If that was not the primary weapon, I'd be like, okay, whatever.
No, I am going to sustain that the SRM-2s are the primary weapon.
I love it when my primary weapons do 4 damage each.
I didn't say it was good. I just said that was the main point. The idea is to get in close and go stabby and open up stuff. It's got a tag, this is what shoots forward and gives your missile batteries assistance. And the light PPC is for when you're closing range and you drop that so that you can, vent off the heat.
I'm not going to lie, I still think the 30 Alice is the best one we've seen so far.
I'm not disagreeing.
This one, it's a different digression in a weird way for the assassin.
Yeah, this. It's not bad, it's different.
Yeah, it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's great. If you needed a lighter medium mech to go do tag work, this will do the job. And you can stab some things while you're out there. It'll do it. I would not get into a brawl with anything your size.
Yeah, no, narratively having this running around the hillsides, opening up with its sword while calling in artillery fire, quote unquote, LRM batteries, that narratively that's a lot of fun.
I mean, personally, what I would probably end up doing is swapping that 1 ton of SRM2 ammo for Infernos for maximum anti-vehicle use, because that is what you're going to have issues with, is vehicles your size. Because they can keep up with you roughly, and they have enough armor to where you can't deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have enough firepower to kill you. Because you do have 128 points of stealth armor, but that will go away very quickly in the 3060s.
Yes.
Let alone later.
And it's got an XL engine, so it is a little fragile.
Yeah. Give it the Infernos for dealing with vehicles, any vehicle. And then you have the sword for when things get into your minimum range for your light PPC. And you just primarily use it as a tag and scout mech. The assassin. Such a weird freaking mech.
Yep.
The new miniature looks great though, so hopefully we get a new variant that looks great too. That is great too.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. Our digression about the head looking goofy and or wrong, etc. notwithstanding, it is a solid looking machine.
Yeah.
Also, it's one of those ones that you can be like, shouldn't it have a torso mounted cockpit?
Yeah. It's also one of those ones that feels like it should have a really big EC, like electronics suite, and then it never does except for one variant, and you're like, well, what?
Well, no, the 99, I mean, you know, the Alice, arguably, that's just a one-off.
I mean, the 99 has the Guardian, but it has to for the stealth armor.
Yeah. No, you're right. I was just like, no, there's got to be like one or two more. It's like, no, there's just one mass-produced.
And then it had to have it. Like, it's not like it was like, oh, we put it on there because it's an assassin. No, we put it on there because that's stealth armor.
Yeah, because like Jump 7 screams, especially when you're getting into larger play, ECM to mess up, you know, networks and everything.
Yeah, or, you know, backstab or be annoying. And this one can kind of do those, but I recently actually fought against an Assassin 21, I believe it was. And like I just stopped caring about it. Like, I was like, what are you gonna do back there, little guy?
Yeah.
Shoot at me with your SRM2? Oh no.
You know it's bad when you're not a threat, you're an annoyance.
I left the Zeus X's back wide open and it shot at it and it did nothing. And I'm like, there we go. You hit me with an SRM2. Yay. Thank you for scratching the paint.
You get the gold star. Well, the 99 was seen in 3068, and it's got a battle value of 1,116 and a point value of 32. So, yeah, periphery machine, a little light on the weapons. It feels like a machine that punches down, you know, kind of like the Banshee or what have you.
Yeah, it's definitely one that very much fulfills its intended purpose of hunting light scout mechs, because light scout mechs can't hurt it in any significant form because they don't have guns, and this has just enough gun to kill them.
Yes,
that is
because
all it
they
does.
also don't have armor.
Yeah, but once you get into later eras, it can't kill them because it can't hit them.
Yes.
So you run into
Although
a problem.
To be fair, it is incredibly hard to get hit as well, because almost all of them have a jump 7, which is spicy.
Yeah, once you get into later eras, it just turns into a heavier scout mech. And I mean, for a scout mech
that, you know, has to stay close to supply lines.
Yeah. I mean, you just use it as a scout mech that's
escort duty.
You use it as a scout mech that's like attached to a unit. It's not going out for deep reconnaissance. It's like, oh yeah, go look what's on the other side of those hills.
Yeah,
and then come
patrol
back
around the base.
Yeah, like you use it as a reconnaissance platform, not a deep raid scout.
You know where this would probably get assigned a lot or really shine? The militia.
Oh yeah, that's exactly where they went.
Yeah, exactly. That's closing that circle, right?
Look, the SRM2 might be lame damage-wise, but it will blow up your Toyota Hilux.
Yes.
And that medium laser will destroy the Toyota Hilux. And the LRM5 will also destroy the Toyota Hilux.
Yes. Most things will destroy a Toyota Helix.
Which is why it does good job there.
And that, of course, is our final assassin that we have at time of recording. So we're going to move on over to our pilot profiles. And for that, we're going to throw over to Chandler to start us off.
All right, folks. So first of all, we have Mech Warrior Krylun Hyperton of the Cretan Galadon Regulars. He would end up being commended for actions during the Battle of the Wheel, which is a lesson for why you don't let assassins go away from supply lines. Because they ended up doing a deep raid against Steiner forces and did nothing, and ended up just being able to shoot with their medium lasers because they ran out of ammo. Which doesn't work, because a medium laser is very good, but not by itself.
No.
Not on a 40-ton mech.
At that point, you are a 40-ton Stinger or Wasp.
Yeah. So he would end up being behind enemy lines for 8 months, and then would limp back to Korean lines with his mech barely functional and essentially ready to just fall to pieces underneath them. Both of his leg actuators were shot, and he had to replace his medium laser with an inferior forge medium laser. So they were even having to do field repairs to keep these things operational, which makes sense because, the Steiners are, of course, aiming for the guns. poor mech warrior Krylon. All right, and the next up, we have another lovely assassin mech pilot, of course, Dale Sanderstrom from the Merrick 5th Regulan Hussars, who was briefly dispossessed when his archer was blown up. He would work in the infantry for several years until he somehow came across the fresh remains of an assassin, which, seeing how good the assassin is, I'm sure a lot of other people passed it up.
I'm pretty sure nobody wants to stay dispossessed.
Yeah, but it was probably more of I could take that for salvage to sell, or I could just leave it there because it's not worth the hassle. But he would end up putting his entire life savings to get the machine working again. Dale would end up becoming a bounty hunter and would work freelance for any state that would hire him. He would end up renaming the assassin the Dark Death and would paint it gray with black stripes. To date, he has killed an estimated 30 mech warriors, which sometimes was fair combat and sometimes not. Unfortunately for Dale, his family does not consider his work to be honorable. But he does stay busy and he does pay his bills, so you gotta give him some credit. He does put food on the table.
So next up we have Alice Humpter-Derby.
Humphreys. Oh, wait, Alice Humpter-Derby. Wait, what?
He's the one in Unique Mechs.
Yeah, what tier of that?
It is the record sheet's Unique Mechs.
Assassin pilots. Record sheets Unique Mechs. Oh, okay, so we don't even have a... Oh my god, that is her last name. I assumed it was supposed to be Humphreys.
No, it Alice Humpter-Derby's.
Of course she's Lyran.
Yeah. Well, Alice's fate was changed when the descendants of Kerensky returned to the Inner Sphere. She grew up as the daughter of a predominant industrial family and had little interest in the ways of war. But Clan Wolf invaded her homeworld, and her father leveraged his political power and secured her a seat on an evacuating dropship as the family estate burned. Sympathetic military officers and distant business connections secured Alice a spot in a MechWarrior Academy. That is where her family political capital ended. When Alice graduated, she spent the remaining liquid family fortune on an ASN-21, and her request to serve in the 26th Lyran Guard, the unit that had evacuated her and others from the clan invasion on her homeworld, would be honored, and she joined the unit. She would serve with distinction, and in 3066 would have her 21 destroyed on the planet of Dalketh. She was requisitioned a 30 from the Defiance Industries to replace her 21. Her 30 would, however, take severe damage during a confrontation with the 4th Davian Guard, and effectively lose its left side and suffer severe internal damage. Alice was temporarily transferred to the salvage unit, while her assassin was rebuilt. There she claimed parts and inspiration, rebuilding her mech into a machine we spoke about earlier in the episode, a machine that lives up to its name.
Yeah, but at the same time, she ripped off all this stuff from a Javelin 11D, and I would argue that the Javelin 11D is a better mech. No offense to her assassin that she developed, but
I mean, sometimes you work with what you got. We can't all be, mercenary commanders. Some of us have the family heirloom mech.
It was a cored out Javelin 11D, so it makes sense.
I mean, do you really want to have that conversation when you come home after a long deployment and you sit around the kitchen table with, your mother's home-cooked meal, and you just, get glares from your dad being like, oh, what, my mech not good enough for my son?
I mean, it's not an heirloom mech at all by that point, because she refitted that off of our brand new Assassin 30.
True, but
that she
you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, for the most part. But yeah, good job, Alice. Way to figure that one out. Next up, and finally, we have the 10 Tigers, which were a unknown unit that we don't know who actually has their allegiance. What is known is that all 8 of their mechs are Assassin 99s, which Hellespont Industries claims to not know. who stole them or who bought them.
How they were acquired?
Yes. And these are accompanied by 2 squads of Fashi battle armor. So you essentially have a double star formation. So binary, if you want to get technical.
I mean, it would be 16, wouldn't it?
So 8 mechs to 2 squads of battle armor. So that's...
Oh, it's not a 1-to-1. Okay.
Yeah. So what is interesting about the Tentag is that they do show up anytime the Word of Blake is involved and always into their backlines, disrupting any sort of Blakist logistical chains and doing any sort of headhunting they can do while they're there. They are recognized by their all-black paint scheme, with each unit sporting the Chinese character for the native Siam Predator. While they are considered a blessing by many CCAF commanders, their continued success has spawned a small cult movement on several worlds near the Blakist Protectorate, because, that's exactly what the Capellans need, is more cultist stuff.
I mean, has a cult ever done anything bad? At any point in our history, has cults or religion ever put forth any sort of effect, action, or system which has not benefited people on the whole?
I mean, within the lifetime of these pilots, you would have had the thuggy cults doing their lovely chemical bombings. So
true.
Hence the comment about the Capellans not needing any more cults.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to remember if the thuggy cult was defunct or dormant at this point.
Kind of. It's complicated.
Because I think it kind of went away and got subsumed by the cult of personality of Sun Tzu, if I'm remembering correctly.
They are still alive, technically. But we haven't really heard about them since the jihad. So that was also when they were really at their apex of influence, because they had Kali Liao as one of their BFFs.
Yes. The Avatar Reborn or something to that effect.
Yeah.
For our data dive today, we are going to look again at the Lyran Commonwealth.
Good old Lyrans. Way to mess everything up.
The Lyran Commonwealth, Part 8. When last we spoke of the Lyran Commonwealth, Stephen Steiner had died after an ineffectual rule, influenced and hamstrung by mystical eccentricities of his wife Margaret. Margaret would assume the Archonship after the death of her husband and transform the court into a melting pot of mysticism, occult knowledge, and religious zeal. This, of course, resulted in her administration failing at basically every interval. With the brother Archons producing no children, it looked like the Steiner line might be at an end. But you recall the brothers had a sister, who had a child from a scandalous affair, Robert Steiner. Robert Steiner is reported to have been a moody young officer during his posting at Polsbo. Suffering from a muscle condition, he was well fitted to being an aerospace pilot. He was, by all accounts, a ace pilot, having taken down several Merrick fighters in his career before being thrust into the political center stage. Robert is reported to have not been troubled by the apparent theft, air quotes, of his birthright by his aunt. Personal journal entries show that many times Robert felt he did not have the character or resolve to be a good Archon, finding a home and fulfillment in his service to the state in the military. As Margaret's rule continued, more and more nobles, influential people, and military officers traveled to Polsbo, both covertly and openly, to speak to Robert. They asked, begged, and pleaded with him to take up the call of his family's duty to guide the realm. They told stories of the chaos at court, the damage it was doing to the realm and the people. All of these pilgrimages did not convince Robert, but I am sure they primed him for what came next. In a move that forced Robert's hand, or handcuffed him to a movement he wanted no part of, but will we ever know for sure, all the commanding officers of the surrounding areas traveled to Polsbo in unison to pledge their unconditional support to Robert. Robert used the support to assemble several loyal regiments and moved on Tharkad. In 2503 he arrived and found the palace less a seat of government and more a carnival sideshow of fortune-tellers and con artists. Margaret was able to flee days before Robert's arrival and took refuge under the protection of the Dukes of Skye and Tamar, both of whom had backed Margaret in the hopes of empowering themselves. When Robert entered the throne room proper, he found a sight foreign to him. All the marble and stone was covered, and the hall looked more like a bazaar or lounge. Most egregious of all, to Robert was the fact that the throne was covered in silks and fabrics. As he entered the throne room, he headed directly to the seat of power and unveiled the throne of the Steiner house from its shoddy coverings and occult accessories. He then, without saying a word, stared down those who had not fled and left the room. All of Robert's reluctance was burned away in the throne room that day and replaced with a disgust and disdain for those who allowed the Lyran Commonwealth to falter and crumble, for those who stood by and did nothing, or worse, those who profited from it. Robert's next step was to appear before the Estates General, and this session was broadcast to the population. He presented his claim to the seat of Archonship. An excerpt from this address is as follows. I may be a bastard son, but do I not seem more fit to rule than a mad woman who believes in ghosts and reads state policy and tea leaves? I intend to govern with reason and with the help of good men's counsel, not because of constellations of stars or gazing into Arcturian memory crystals. The people of the Lyran Commonwealth rejoiced when the Estates General confirmed Robert as the Archon of the Lyran Commonwealth. While many units remained neutral, Robert was able to gather a significant force. He set out for Skye, and after a protracted journey slowed by harassment of Margaret's supporters, Robert and his forces arrived on Skye in late 2504. There, despite being worn down from the long journey and in need of refit, Robert's forces fought a pitched campaign, securing the majority of the planet until only the capital remained under Margaret's control. When victory was within his grasp, Robert's forces were rebuffed by fresh units that had recently arrived to support Margaret and the Duke of Skye. The forces were loyal to the Duke of Tamar. Unable to break the siege lines in time, Robert was forced to watch as the majority of the Duke's and Margaret's forces, along with the leadership, escaped on dropships. 5 months later, Robert would lead his troops, many of whom were on the verge of exhaustion or at the breaking point, on to Tamar. There they found the Duke's forces outnumbered them 2-1, and the fresh forces made short work of Robert's worn down but seasoned and loyal troops. Soon Robert and all of his forces were pushed back onto a barren and rocky peninsula. There they waited for what Robert was sure was certain death of him and his troops, a fate he had led them to. When the morning of what both sides expected to be the final attack approached, a single small dropship, a planetary cutter, landed in the no-man's land between the armies. The ship had the markings of the Terran hegemony and had a diplomatic unit dispatched to try and resolve the dispute. Robert was happy to give his forces more time to rest and repair. The Dukes and Margaret reluctantly agreed to postpone their victory in order to save diplomatic face. The negotiations went on for well over a day, often heated, sometimes violent, but in the end, no middle ground could be found, and so both parties returned to their lines and the shuttle departed. As the cutter arced up into the sky, Robert noticed several new stars in the sky. On a hunch, he ordered his forces to hold defensive positions and open fire on any and all targets, creating a massive killing field that slowed the advance of Margaret loyalists. Some units fell back in the chaos, others pressed on, falling to the onslaught of missiles, lasers, and lead. Soon, the loyalist lines were breaking, and Robert ordered an attack. His troops, worn down and facing certain death, now pushed forward with a renewed zeal that can only come from being pulled from the jaws of death. As Robert's forces continued to press, they found less and less resistance. For 6 hours they fought their way inland. Soon they approached a command post in utter ruin. Around it stood forces showing the markings of no known unit to be in this engagement so far. A single griffin approached the advancing line and requested an audience with the command vehicle. When the two met, Robert climbed onto the roof of the command vehicle, and the griffin used its speakers. And the voice of the speaker was that of Niels Reynolds, the young Duke of Fatima. He and his forces had come to repay the debt his family owed to the Steiner line, and Niels felt that now was as good a time as any. Robert adamantly agreed and thanked the Duke for his rescue and support. In the following year, the Dukes and Margaret would be tried for treason. The Dukes were found guilty and stripped of all lands, titles, and honors. They and their family were exiled to remote parts of the Commonwealth. Margaret was found guilty of treason by reason of insanity, meaning she was committed to a remote care facility on Gallery to live out her remaining days in the care of medical professionals. Robert then ordered all house units to submit to Lyran Commonwealth Armed Forces Command and integrate into their logistics and command structure. If the order was refused, the units would be marked as traitors. No unit refused this order. And with that housekeeping done, Robert was confirmed as the Archon of the Lyran Commonwealth. When next we talk of the Lyran Commonwealth, we will see them take their first steps towards joining the Star League. Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TRO and Record Sheets Succession Wars, TRO 3050 Upgrades, Record Sheets 3050 Inner Sphere, Record Sheets Unique Mechs, and Sourcebook House Steiner.
Steiner.
This podcast is made possible by our patron supporters, link in the description. Our social media on Twitter is @OriginOfMechs. We also have a community Discord, the Armory of Ouroboros, link in the description. You can email us at ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review on your platform of consumption and tell your friends and share on your community platform of choice. Special thanks to my friend Treble for the intro and outro. Our Ace Pilot Patreons are John Keith III, Metal Ed, and Jesty. Our Field Marshal Patreons are Field Marshal Stahlkater and Field Admiral Chiraneau. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. Systems standby. Would you like to load the next module?